I think. Hello, word. Clicked on the wrong link. Okay. Awesome. So today is about flexbox. Okay, this is CSS. We're back to some CSS and HTML stuff. So what flexbox allows is for your websites to be a lot more responsive. What do I mean when I say that? Okay, so if we look at, let's go to a website. Let's go to pursuit.org or something. Right, this might look familiar. Let's go to like our team. And we can see when we scroll down here, we have like this, all of these photos, right? You could probably think of this as like a bunch of LIs inside of a UL, right? And as I change the size of the screen, the photos adapt. You'll see that they start to get a little bit smaller or more close together. Now they're shrinking. And then there's going to be a point, let's see when it happens. Boom. There's a change, right? It went from here to there. Okay, that's called a breakpoint. Okay, so this is where CSS, something is styled actually different based off of the size of the screen. This is called something being responsive. So if this wasn't responsive, I could just keep making it smaller and smaller, and the pictures might either get really tiny, or I would just be able to like keep going off the page here. I think I have an example of that. I made a site that wasn't responsive a while ago. Because Yelp wasn't responsive at the time either. Not that that's really a good excuse, but okay. This website is responsive. This one is not. Well, I don't think it is. Let's see. So as I make these, so you can look at these don't ever get nice. In fact, oh, actually, these ones look okay. They look kind of okay. They're off center though, right? So that's something to note. I wonder if I ended up making it better than I'm thinking I did. Let's check something. Well, you can see that this site does not look very good when it's small. See like how I just start going over the right of review? It doesn't like move or adjust, just is stuck in place. And I just start losing parts of the page, right? That's not responsive behavior. That's kind of a negative user experience if they're dealing with different size screens. Specifically, if you were to look at this on your phone, it wouldn't look nearly as good. These photos were done right. So I'll go back to the show page where it's really bad. Control Option I, right? We can change how it appears by clicking on this little toggle device toolbar. And by selecting that, this is what it looks like on a phone. Specifically the iPhone X. You can hopefully tell that that's like not a good looking website. Everything is like super tiny. In other words, if somebody goes to my Yelp website from their phone, I'm probably not going to get hired. So it's very specifically a desktop application. But it's just something to be aware of, right? Yeah, I didn't make it responsive at the time. So, okay. So we're going to learn a little bit more about responsive. You saw that my photos, though, did move around somewhat nicely as I changed the size of the screen. So that's what we're going to learn today, which is something called flexbox, which is really going to help us. So from the GitHub, I'm going to go ahead and take this HTML thing. So I'm going to go to our index.html, and I'm going to paste this in. This is a series of images inside of this div called images div. I'm going to copy the path. And let's go to a different site here. Let's paste this in. So I got all of those from the GitHub thing if you're trying to follow along. And we see that I have all of these photos inside of this div. And you can see the behavior is actually not too bad by default. it's changing things actually pretty nicely, but yeah, it's not actually the worst behavior. But we're going to learn a little bit more about ways to make sure that it behaves in the way we want it to. So let's go to our CSS page, and let's go ahead and call our image div, images div. And a lot of this will just be practiced by doing. So like the exercise lab today is a thing called like flexbox froggy. I'll also send out a link to Scrimba flexbox, which is a really cool interactive video that you can click in and follow. But flexbox froggy is like you just keep solving little frog puzzles by changing the CSS to update where the frogs are positioned. You want them to be on the lily pads. Anyway, so we're going to say dot, oops, image div is what we called it, right? Just to make sure. Yep, images div. Great. And so the first thing we can do is we're going to say display flex. So some things to note is images div is the parent container of all of these other divs, or images, I guess they are by default, right? So we've got all of these images. These are the children of this div, which is the parent. Okay, so when we use flexbox, we style the parent. The parent is what gets display flex. And so how does this change our site? Well, we'll refresh it. Oops, I opened up a new tab. We'll refresh it, and it looks, well, it really looks the same. Well, that's because we haven't hooked up our CSS file. This is style.css. We should be doing master.css. Let's see if that changes anything. There we go. That's what to do. That's what's expected. So when we say flex, it automatically, by default, becomes one row. This long row that we can see with this nice side scroll. You may be asking, like, why is this better than the default behavior? Well, this one probably isn't, but there are times when it will be better than the default behavior. That said, we can make it so this one also wraps, and we can do that by saying flex wrap is another property. So we can say flex wrap, and we can go ahead and tell it to wrap. Refresh, and now it's doing this nice wrap so that it will fit as many possible ones as it can as the page gets smaller. Okay. You can note the order. This is the tree here is at the top. Top left, the ocean or lake thing is in the bottom right. We can change the direction of the wrap by doing wrap reverse. And now everything is inverted in a weird kind of way. Let's open up the console. Oops. So see our elements. This div is taking up the whole size. Okay, so that's something to note if you need to reverse things. Okay. I really like Flexbox. We could also make this a column, so each thing doesn't, because right now it's a row, right, where it's just one long row. We could also make this one column. Flex direction. Column. We can also do column reverse to get the other order. And now they're columns, but they're all totally stretched across. Okay, so that doesn't look that good. But they're columns. Questions so far? We're just kind of seeing it, yeah. Okay. So we can also say where we want these items to be on the screen. We can have them left, right, or in this word, so start or end. So we can go ahead and align our items. And we'll say like flex start. And if we do that, then they're all starting on the left side of the screen. If we change it to flex end, they'll be on the right side of the screen. Where do we think they're going to be when I say center? What do we think? The center? Yeah, right? Yeah, thank you. Right, it's not too bad. Align item center is something you'll probably use more than not. Yeah, the things, so let me just like give you what you really need to know. All right, the important ones are you'll use flex, display flex. You'll use that a lot. Okay, flex wrap, you will probably also use sometimes. Flex direction, row or column, both of those you'll sometimes use. So that's important. Align items center is the one that you really need to remember. Okay? Flex end, flex start. Like you'll need a flexbox froggy. You probably won't need it that much when you're really working. You're gonna need center. Okay? Because that also allows you to like vertically center items. Like let's go back. Let's forget the column. Okay. All right. So there's still some more to go over. Okay. What's the best? Okay, so the other one that you'll want to use a lot is justify content. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to do less items because I think it's distracting me. I'm just going to have 3 images. Okay, so the 3 images look like this. We'll see that they're all the way over to the side. Our elements, div, our images div is the whole width, yeah? But all of our elements are way there on the end. Okay, so how do we change that? We can change that with something called justify content. This is the other one that you'll use a lot. And you'll use 3 of them. Okay, justify content. If I want everything to be in the center, I say center. Okay? If I say refresh, now all 3 items are in the center. Okay, so when you're trying to center something, align items is what you center is usually what you use for vertically centering stuff, and for horizontal centering, you'll use justify content center. Doug, question? Did that answer that question? Got it. Again, a lot of CSS is like futzing around with it, yeah? Okay, the other 2 that you'll use sometimes is space between. So space between will give the maximum space between every single element. So if with that definition in mind, where do we think these 3 things will be when I refresh the page? Okay, Eric says all the way left for one, perfectly center for the other, and all the way right for the other. Does that seem like the max way that things could be spread on this? Okay, yeah, I agree. And that is the case. So you'll use that one a lot too, because that's a nice styling. And the point is that it also adjusts as the screen changes, right? So that's like what makes it desirable, is that flexibility. The other one is space around. Space around, I should spell that right. Space around gives space around each element in a nice way. Looks like this. There's also a space evenly, which really looks a lot like space around. I'll show you it. But generally, you can get away with just remembering space around evenly. Ready for the change? Okay, not much. Right? Now they're just perfectly spaced, like apart. So you can use that one a lot too. Okay? That's where you're gonna like mostly live. You'll live with like display flex, justify content, center, justify content, space around, justify content, space between, flex, flex or wrap, flex wrap. That's pretty much, those are the main things. If you get those, you'll be in like pretty good shape. Any questions on any of that? Yeah.
Is there like a visual like grid that it leaves that I know I want it around here, but is there like what number would that be? Like what would be like the on the computer? Like
So that's really interesting that you're asking about like a visualized grid, because that's kind of like what's coming probably tomorrow or Monday. It's called CSS Grid, where you actually define a grid within the existence of that you're trying to do, specified by rows and columns, and then you say which rows and columns you want things to appear in.
and does the grid go by you know what I mean?
Yes. It is Flexi.
Oh.
Yeah, it came after Flexbox. It's like what's very hot right now. Flexbox, everybody, like, you have to know, it's mandatory. Grid is like something that people are still learning. It takes a while to pick up new technologies, even though it's been around for quite a while now.
And I saw some photos, paintings that were made in CSS, and I'm like, did you have to know like every tiny position?
Oh, I saw those. Yeah, that person probably did do that. Yeah,
That's like 1,000. Like
yeah, I think that's all they did.
Like box by box.
I know, that person is, I don't want to meet that person. Just admire them from afar. That's good. Okay, so that's like honestly that's mostly Flexbox. So let's see if we actually know it. Yeah. What I want you to do is, let's see. I want you to recreate something. So we'll go to code. Oh no, I clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. Don't like this. I'm coming up with it here. Okay. From the home page, I think in the footer, I want you to recreate this footer, not with the image or anything, but I want you to have essentially 3 LIs that are like this and that are spaced out like that. Okay. This is your goal, to recreate that. You can see the way it moves. Oops. Decide how you think this is set up and go ahead and make that. Okay, try to recreate that footer. It doesn't all have to be links, right? It doesn't have to be like what that says on it.
Okay. It's not that warm.
It's hot.
Oh, it's fine. Oh my god,
Also
what
on
is
stage.
it? Deregulation from the They're big on Yes, it's fixed. How to fix the food here? Oh, what's a fixed? Oh, what's a fixed food here? It means it's a food here that doesn't move. Okay. just put that in and then refresh the page so that this is how you. Yeah.
All right. How much more time? 5 minutes? Okay. 3 minutes. I know this guy. You might have to like use position. Robert. You could also like for this one you could think out like you have how many like sections total.
No, that's the only one.
You have like two concepts there, right?
Huh?
Two concepts there? In your inside of your body. Like zero concepts you have.
3.
Footer. Like how many direct children?
Oh, of the body? 2.
Two. So when we go any properties that could push things apart.
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh. Default behavior. It's a default driver. This is where the CSS reset would come in. And so go that, or you can just inspect and find out what exactly you know. All right, clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Way to go, brother. How do we do on this warm-up? Yay, nay, okay? Yeah, overall.
We're not supposed to have any links.
Nah, don't worry about that. It's just concept-wise, yeah? We Gucci, yeah. Okay. I dig. I'm hip. All right, let's try this out. So let's like think about this, like just the concept. Like, what does this look like to us? What's going to be the main tag that it's inside? A footer, right? Because it is a footer. And then what about these? What are all these? These are all ULs. What are these? What about these tops? Headers are they inside the UL, or how does that work? I don't know, right? Like something to think about. All right, well, let's see. All right, so first off, let's go ahead and make our footer. I'm going to go ahead and think that like our footer has 3 sections. Yeah, we could use a div or a section. Son of a gun. Okay, so let's say we have and then we said we had a header of some sort. So let's go ahead and make that an H3, and I'll say like about. And then we had a UL with a series of LIs. Yep.
Why couldn't we have just, because this is...
There's lots of ways to do something.
Okay, well, would it have been the same thing in code if instead of writing the H3 about that we did in the UL, we'd have the ID and then the less greater sign and then about me before we start our allies?
But it's inside the UL?
Yeah, it's in between the two.
Yeah, so like the thing is, in my eyes, like if we have a UL, it should be filled with the items in the list. So having that H in there is kind of weird because it's not really an LI.
No, not having an H. Having, like, if you were writing title and inside you wrote document 1, where we write document 1, couldn't you have just written about me and then in the next line started your LIs instead of creating a header title?
Oh, just writing it here instead of the H3, just having the word about?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work. To me, this is like a header for this UL, so I feel like it's a little bit more declarative about what it is. But it's not. You're always not necessarily wrong. Okay, about we can say I don't know. Doesn't really matter, right? We'll say music and improv and writing. We'll do all the things I'm interested in. Okay, I'm gonna delete these sections for now, and I'm gonna duplicate these because it's gonna be less work for me. Okay, so this one was connect. That's the second one. Connect, and we had, let's say, GitHub, LinkedIn, say Angel, and then we have projects, we'll say. Oops. Let's say help. Actually, it was called Yelp, I think, yeah. Yep. Maze. Spinner. Let's say MBA. Stats. Okay. Let's go look at what it looks like on our page. So we'll refresh our page, and it looks like that. Okay, that's not too bad. That looks close to where we're at, right? So what do I need to change? What?
You wanted to know something very quickly and how to.
That's right. So I can do that. Let's take a look. So if I want these, all these sections are children to who? The footer, right? So I'm going to click on footer, and I can play around in here first. So I'm going to say display flex, because I have to put it on the parent. And go, ooh, okay. If I do display flex, all of a sudden we've got them all in these nice rows. That's pretty good. What else? What other property? How am I going to spread this out? Space between? Maybe. Let's say justify content center. No, that doesn't look right. Space around, even, between, evenly. What do we think it is? Let's see. Space. What is it? I think it's space around. Knowing myself, I probably did space around. Hey, let's find out what I did. Command Option I. Footer. See, I didn't use a footer tag. I used a div tag. Didn't know better. Display flex. Flex direction column. That's interesting. Huh? I might have been doing something weird. Yeah, I'm not going to go off of this. I think I've improved since I wrote this a few years ago. Anyway, or I think it was just a couple of years ago, but whatever. You will get better, right? So you don't have to be embarrassed by your old projects, right? Like, it's just where you were at. Like, it wasn't responsive. That's where I was. Okay, so this is our footer. So now that we've got our styling like pretty all right in our footer here, I'm gonna go copy these styles into our CSS. So I'll copy that. I'm gonna go into our master.css. I'm gonna go ahead and call footer directly, just because I know you only get to have one footer, so you don't really need to be too bothered. Save that. And when we refresh, okay, that looks good. Let's see. Something that drives me nuts is I know I don't like list styles. Like I don't like those dots. So how do I get rid of those dots? Yeah, Shia.
List style type none.
Okay. So I'm just gonna throw that on the LIs.
How do you then get it to recenter?
Well, we're gonna look at it. Don't worry. There's a reason why I'm doing this. Bless you. Very dramatic. Okay, so I look at this and I go, it's not lined up, right? You would think it should be lined up with other projects. So the first thing I want to remind us of is the CSS reset, right? This is a default behavior. We didn't style it this way, nor do we like this. So if I'd been really clever and I was building on a big project, I would have used the CSS reset so that this wouldn't be an issue at all right now. However, I found myself in this predicament, and I'm not going to put a CSS reset. It's too late, right? So how am I going to do this? I'm going to select my problem areas, try to figure out what's going on. So I see that my UL has like this extra weird space on the left, even though the whole thing is this size. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to examine what's already on here. And I see, ooh, padding inline start 40 pixels. And when I hover over it, it's showing that it's responsible for that green rectangle. So I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to copy that. And on my ULs, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to be 0 pixels. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to see if that fixes the issue. Okay, much better. Right, I'm not gonna like. If you want, they can keep styling for colors and whatnot, but like, I don't think that's really important at the moment. Some people will go, "Oh, that footer's like really high up on the page." That's kind of annoying, and we can see the body is the whole page. So why is the footer all the way up? Well, it's because the way the page gets rendered, it moves it to the next space. So there's a couple ways around this. I can either use a position property that we haven't learned yet and force it down to the bottom of the page. But is there anything that I did learn today that I might be able to use? Oh? What? What did you say? Space around? Maybe. I don't know about that quite yet. Well, let's think about this. Let's go back and look at our HTML. And we can see our body has this image div and this footer div. Those are its two direct children. So is there a way that I could separate them? No, the footer should stay in the body.
The display should be at flex n.
We could flex 10? Flex n. Oh, okay, maybe. Well, let's say we grab the body. And what happens if I put display flex on the body? Maybe this will work, maybe it won't work, right? So if I do this, what happened? What just happened? They went next to each other. Why? Keep going. You got it? Okay, that's a default property of using flex, right? It moves it to a row. Moves all of its children into a row. I don't really like a row. What do I want it to be? Yeah. So what property is that? Flex direction, Jay says quietly. Column. Okay, so now we're back to where we started. Interesting. Any property that we might know about that can move it? Maybe align items? I don't know. What if we do justify content? Like, let's just start trying things, right? Let's just fiddle. We should fiddle around in here. So I'm going to click this, so I don't have to keep refreshing. And let's see what happens. Maybe I can do justify content space between, around, between. That looks like the footer's now at the bottom of the page, right? that look right? It's too far down? Well, it's the footer. It's at the bottom. But yeah.
Wait, what did you change?
I've added a flex property to the body. I've set flex direction column, and I've added justified content, space between. And so if it didn't work for you, your setup might be a little bit different than mine. I cannot answer that probably from up here. I'd have to work with you individually. Slash futz, keep futzing. Futz and futz. That's like the CSS. If you're not futzing, you're not CSSing. Yeah? Okay. That like on the GitHub lesson, it also talks a little bit about media queries. We're not going to go into those today. I think we're not going to be using those right away. We should save those for later. Okay? Any questions on Flex? Yeah, Danny.
I saw something that said flexbox.
Oh, okay, great. This is called flexbox. So the idea that we have this, remember the box model where everything is like these boxes and represents a box, and then we're putting flex on this box, and we can like have it move, and we can see that it's flexible, right, as it changes and all that. This is a very flexible site now. This whole concept is called flexbox. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Any other flexy questions? All right, cool. So if you didn't get this and it didn't work when you followed along, let me know. We'll futz around a bit. Otherwise, I think, did Celine post Paris? Somebody's posting Paris. And so you'll work on the Flexbox lab today, okay? All right, rock and roll.